Good evening, members, officers, visitors and members of the public. I am Councillor Elliot Jays and I'll be chairing this evening's meeting. The meeting will be recorded and proceedings will be conducted in accordance with the Council's constitution, including procedural rules which are available on the Council's website. Item 1, emergency evacuation procedure. There is no planned evacuation drill this evening. Accordingly, if the alarm sounds, it is be treated as a genuine need to evacuate. The emergency exits are on my right and down the stairs, and out to the left by the elevators. Again, there are stairs. Please do not use the lifts. The assembly point is in the car park. Please do not return to the building until I've announced it's safe to do so. Is there anyone present that will need assistance in evacuating should that happen? Please indicate to me now. No? Okay. Members must consider each application and everything that is said in the meeting concerning the application and make the decision based solely on their planning judgment of the information available to them. Following a decision by members, delegated authority is given to the planning officers to issue the decision notice. Planning permission is not granted or refused until the issuing of that decision notice. Any member of the council who is not a member of the planning committee may attend as a visiting member and speak, having given prior notification. Such visiting members may of course include ward members, and whilst visiting members can speak on an application, they are not permitted to vote. Any member acting as a substitute on the planning committee must have undertaken appropriate training before doing so. Members must remain in the meeting for the whole time that each item is being debated and should not vote on the item unless they have done so. I would now like to welcome our public speakers and remind you that you have 3 minutes to speak, and an audible warning of time will be given when there's 30 seconds remaining. If the item is deferred to conduct a site meeting, you may speak both at this meeting and at the site meeting when it comes back, and at the subsequent meeting when it comes back to the planning committee. The meeting will follow the order set out in the agenda. However, I'll amend the order if there's good reason to do so. Do we have any apologies for absence, please?
Thank you, Chair. Apologies have been received from Councillor Mike Baldock, from Councillor Kieran Golding, who is substituted by Councillor Shelley Cheeseman, from Councillor Claire Martin, who is substituted by Councillor Hannah Perkin, from Councillor James Hunt, and from Councillor Simon Clark. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Item 3, minutes. Do members agree to the minutes for the meeting held on the 6th of February 2025, minutes number 2629 to 640 as a correct record? Thank you. I'll sign them in a minute. Next up, I'd like to invite members' declarations of pecuniary interest. Is there any? No. What about disclosable non-pecuniary interests? No, that's an easy item then. I'd like to remind the meeting that where it's possible that a fair-minded informed observer, having considered the facts, would conclude that there was a real possibility that a member might be predetermined or biased on any agenda item, the member should declare that possibility and then leave the room while the item is considered. So, item 5, agenda 2.1, application number 22/504. 598/full, and that is land at Queenborough Road. Now I'd like to invite the planning officer for an update, please.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, members. There is an update relevant to this particular application. So since the publication of the report, officers have received additional representations that have been circulated to the committee. Representation objecting to the scheme raised concerns over the validity of the sequential test, retail impact assessment and health checks on the town centres and the halfway local centre on the grounds that they are not up to date. Officers have considered that representation carefully and, having sought informal opinion from specialists, are satisfied that the conclusions reached within the information before you are sound. In addition to the above, a response from Queenborough Parish Council has been received concluding in support of the application.
And do you have a presentation?
I do, yes.
Okay.
Share my screen. That one? Thank you, Chair. So this planning application is within the built-up area boundary of Sheerness, with built development to the west and road networks abutting the site to the south, north and east. This particular application is for the erection of a retail unit together with associated access, footway improvements, parking provision and landscaping. This is the elevations that you can see of the building that would be located on that site. And again, here's some side elevations. This is a CGI of the site itself and the proposal, looking from the A2 500 and Queenborough Road. The site is a greenfield that is allocated for hotel use in the currently adopted Local Plan 2017 as part of Policy A4. The proposed development would conflict with policies ST3, A4 and DM24 specifically in paragraph 109 and 127 of the MPPF. However, as robustly justified and thoroughly assessed in the report, the benefits of the scheme as set out in the report outweigh the harm arising from the conflict with the development plan and the MPPF. On this basis, the officer's recommendation is to grant planning permission for the reasons set out in the report, subject to conditions. And just on the screen there, you have a picture of the site, and then one again from Queenborough Road. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And can you just talk members through the various tabled updates, please?
Yes, so I think there's 3 or 4 tabled updates in front of you. One of them is from a local resident, so that's the tabled paper 1. The second tabled paper is a representation on behalf of Tesco, labelled tabled paper 2. Tabled paper 3 is a response from the applicant of the application, Lidl, to that Tesco representation. And the fourth one. And then the fourth one is a representation from the Queenborough Town Council on the application. Do you wish time to read those?
As is received late in the day, do members wish to have a 10-minute adjournment to read these and digest them? Okay, I think it's the will of the meeting. We'll adjourn for 10 minutes for reading. Feel free to read in here or escape to other rooms for quiet times. So first I'd like to invite Adam Frostick, the applicant, to speak to us.
Am I okay? Thank you, Chair. I appreciate the opportunity to address this committee once again, and I apologise, as you are no doubt all sick of the sight of me, having sat here twice before for this very same application. It is unfortunate that we must revisit this application, despite the fact that planning consent has already been granted twice. This delay, caused by competitor-led judicial reviews, has resulted in unnecessary frustration, not just for this committee and your officers, but also for local residents who overwhelmingly support our proposals. Let me remind you why you approved this application before and why it remains the right decision this evening. Our proposals align with planning policy, and where there have been any questions, we have worked constructively with officers to ensure compliance. We are bringing up to 40 new jobs to the Isle of Sheppey, along with further employment during construction. We're delivering a modern, well-designed store that is appropriate for this prominent gateway location. We are making real investments in local infrastructure, including improvements to footpaths and pedestrian access along Queenborough Road. We will enhance biodiversity on site through a carefully planned landscaping scheme. We are providing electric vehicle charging points and have future-proofed the site for further EV infrastructure as demand grows. We will commission a large-scale public art installation by a local artist to enhance the visual appeal of the site. These are real, tangible benefits, ones that this committee recognised when it granted permission twice before, in July 2023 and January 24. Your officers have since worked tirelessly to address the so-called concerns raised by our competitors, but fundamentally, the application remains entirely the same as before. Crucially, we have also now purchased the site. We are the freehold owner, and we are fully committed to delivering this investment for the Isle of Sheppey. The residents have spoken. Over 90% of those who responded to our consultation support Lidl coming to the island. They want choice, they want competition, and they want the benefits that this store will bring. Benefits our competitors clearly want to withhold from locals. So, I respectfully ask this committee once again to uphold the views of its residents and follow the officer's recommendation to grant consent. Let's move forward and deliver this much wanted investment for Sheppey. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next to speak, I have Councillor Whiting as ward member.
Thank you, Chair. Appreciate the opportunity to speak, and I will be very brief. I would just be urging your members to support the application. I mean, it's very clear to me from correspondence I get from my residents and also from the town council in Queenborough, which has continued to support this application. It had reservations on one or two issues, but I note that the applicant has dealt with those, and I'm particularly thinking of the 190 metre long footway, which I believe I'm very keen to see a footway joining, going east to west on the Isle of Sheppey, and this adds to that, and it fills a gap between Queenborough Corner and eventually the Barton Hill developments through to Thistle Hill. So I think it's a very it's good that that's happened, and I know that Queenborough Town Council are pleased that the applicant has also agreed to make that investment. So I also welcome the jobs that it will bring, and I welcome the competition it will bring on the island. I understand why Tesco's and others may object to the competition, but competition is, I believe, good, and I think it would be good for the residents of Sheppey if this were to get your assent once again. So I would just urge your members, Mr. Chairman, to give this application their full support and follow the recommendations of the officers. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next up, I have as a visiting member, Councillor Worcester, online.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to draw the members' attention to Sheerness Town Council's initial objection to the application. And that is not based around not supporting competition in the area. That is obviously a good thing. And there are obviously many good points about this application. However, it cannot be underestimated enough because we've experienced it with the Aldi move out of Sheerness, that this will have a detrimental effect on Sheerness Town Centre. I'm aware that the points raised by the Town Council have been looked at by the very comprehensive officer report. Thank you very much for that. However, we do see that Sheerness now, as the highest area of deprivation for its numbers on Sheppey, that they have now limited access to, for example, cheap, good quality food. And there has been no improvement in transport in the area to help support those residents getting access to what other people may get access to who have got car transport, for example. And that needs to be noted. It also needs to be noted that I feel that lots of these things could be resolved with the applicant with contact with the Town Council, which it hasn't done so far, to help mitigate some of the issues that will be suffered by Sheerness Town Centre through this application. And that door remains open for the applicant after this meeting to contact and have that discussion with the Town Council because of the absolute undeniable effect this will have, especially concerning that we do have a space within the ward of Sheerness that is owned by Swale Borough Council, that they could have utilised that piece of land on the old Westminster land that is just sitting empty and has done so for many, many years. And that could have been utilised and be absolutely supportive for those residents that need access to this. 100% of those residents would have had access to that site. I dare say some of those residents will be up to visit Lidl if this goes ahead, but absolutely not 100% of those residents because they can't get there. So it really does matter that these applications have practical implications, not just in an officer's report, but actually fundamentally for those who are some of the most vulnerable in our community. And I do agree that I've had emails of overwhelming support, but I do feel that the residents of Sheerness feel that this is a done deal. So really what I'm looking for here is support from the applicant and from this committee that we need to make sure that any detrimental effect on Sheerness through this application is mitigated wherever possible. But
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you. I've let you overrun.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
I'd now like to move the officer recommendation. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Winkless, thank you. I now open the debate. Councillor Winkless, followed by Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Chair. I sat on this planning committee when it came up twice before, and we discussed this, and my view on it hasn't changed one iota. I think this is a well-designed plan, and the ground that it's going to be built on, if we pass this tonight, will help enhance the area. So my attitude hasn't changed. There's only one thing I do pick up on table 2.1, table paper 4, is the concerns about the traffic coming out and turning right, as I understand. Queenborough Town Council have basically said, is there any way the traffic coming out would have a left-hand turn only, which I do have concerns on the safety aspect of what Queenborough Town Council's brought up. So the question I'm asking is, if we are minded to pass this tonight, could there be a condition put on? I'm asking the officer that a left-hand turn only would be put on at the at the exit coming out. That's my point. But overall, I'm in favour of this scheme, like I was the previous 2 times. Thank you.
Thank you. I think a turn left probably wouldn't work, because normally you'd do that when there'd be a roundabout nearby to turn around at. And as the majority of the residents of the island live to the right as you come out of here, I think that'd be unreasonable. KCC Highways would have looked at this. They've reviewed the sight lines. KCC Highways, as we know, have got no objections to this. So I think it's probably an unnecessary restriction, but I'm happy for the officer's opinion.
It would be addressed through a Section 278 agreement with the applicant at the time that they choose to construct. So it would be a separate process from that which the local authority have control over.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Chair. Similar to Councillor Winklis, this is the 3rd time round sitting through this particular application. The application has improved somewhat from the original, with the additional footways that are there now. I have some sympathy with Councillor Worcester's position regarding the lack of public transport on the island, and therefore the difficulty that an out-of-town store would have for some members of the community. I don't think it's necessarily for this particular applicant to solve that issue at this time. They have jumped through many hoops to get where they are now, and the scheme still remains the most sensible use of that particular plot of land at this time. Whether or not the Sheerness Town Council and other parish councils within Sheppey would consider looking at community bus type projects may well alleviate some of the concerns that they have there, and I think KCC still have the grant funding available, but Councillor Whiting would be able to advise on that far better than I think. Beyond that, no change. It's still the right scheme, the right place. I think we should be approving again.
Thank you. Councillor Marchington, did you wish to speak?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'll speak on comments from the Queenborough Town Council, if I may, please. When the first application came in, Queenborough Town Council were for the proposal, but subject to several highway and pathway modifications, which they listed to Swale. In the application before us now, Queenborough Town Council still holds the same view in that they are for the proposal. And pleased there's been modifications to the pathways and bits and pieces, and they also added that they're prepared to accept any mods or conditions that may consequently, necessarily and appropriately be made by the planning officers in the decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Did I have anyone else wishing to speak? Yeah. Councillor Booth.
Thank you, Chairman. I've got a couple of statements and some questions, so bear with me, please. Page 10, can we have... right, OK, before we go, can we have... What is disappointing for this council is we've been here twice before. That is really, really disappointing. Can we have a statement from the officers that they are absolutely behind this application, and that in their professional experience and capacity, this application as we see it today will hold water? Is my first question. I don't want to sit here for a 4th time, Chairman. Can we just have that answer first, and I'll carry on?
Through you, Chair, exactly. We wouldn't have recommended approval continually, and we have considered this largely afresh. It's entirely afresh. It's impossible to say that any decision won't be the subject of a challenge. That's beyond my gift. We've had the application or the officer report reviewed. We've had legal input externally to verify it and assure us that the content of it is sound. That's why it's before you today. That would have been before you sooner if we hadn't done that exercise, but we've thought it reasonable and necessary to do so. It's beyond my gift to say what others might do, but we're satisfied that it's a sound report, and even in the light of the latest submissions, it's still sound to reach the recommendation that is set out.
Councillor Booth.
Thank you very much, and thank you for that answer. One of the tabled documents we have from Martin Robson Planning Practice. It's unfortunate that that group of people have been involved with this application for a number of years, and yet they've not chosen to find the time to find the head of planning at Swale Borough Council. Just as an observation, Chairman. On the same document on page 3, it states the applicant should undertake an updated sequential assessment, household survey, town centre health check and resulting update retail impact assessment. I'm a little concerned that a voice for an opposing store finds it appropriate to advise the applicant what to do. Just a little bit shocked at that, Mr. Chairman. I won't go deeper into that document because it's a little bit, I think the last paragraph is sour grapes. Right. Table paper 4, the statement from Queenborough Town Council. In practice, I have no questions or problems with the document other than it is factually incorrect. Under point B on the second page, it states, as buses have been axed by Kent County Council. That is not correct, Chairman. Kent County Council do not axe bus routes, just for the record. So, bearing that in mind, I think we need to look at the positives. We've heard some negatives this evening, but we need to look at the positives. What does it do? It offers a choice of outlets for visitors and residents of the Isle of Sheppey. I'll focus on visitors, Mr. Chairman, because 1st of March opened the doors to a huge number of additional people on the island that come and stay at the many tourist locations, caravans and mobile homes. They are visitors, not residents, and they use all of the stores on Sheppey. So it will give them in future, hopefully, an alternative. It provides, as we've heard before, much needed jobs. Jobs will provide money, they will provide income, and it will provide financial input into the infrastructure of the island. So that is a positive. And also, let's not forget, one of those golden nuggets that I always enjoy is called competition. And it will send out a signal, hopefully, to those retailers that have had a stranglehold on shoppers on the Isle of Sheppey for many, many years. I won't mention the names, but those people that choose to purchase petroleum fuel at one of those outlets are paying a premium for that, and don't they know it? So I will go with the officer's recommendation, Chairman, as detailed on page 9, that this application is approved and expedited as soon as possible so that Sheppey at last gets another reasonable, decent outlet for food materials for the residents and visitors. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak on this application? Okay, so we've had it proposed and seconded, the officer's recommendation to approve. So we'll vote on that. All those in favour of the officer's recommendation, please show. That is unanimous. Thank you. So the decision is delegated to the head of plan to grant plan permission subject to appropriate safeguarding conditions, with further delegation to head of plan to negotiate the precise wording of conditions, including adding or amending such conditions as may be consequently necessary and appropriate. So we now move on to item 2.2, application number 23/505043/full. And that's McNade Service Station, Canterbury Road, Faversham. And I'd like to ask the officer to provide a summary, presentation and update, please.
Thank you, Chair, and good evening, councillors. As you'll see, there's a table update for this application also. The majority of this is to do with 4 public representations that have been received since the report was published. All of these representations raise objections to the proposal, but they already cover one issue, which is, as you can see there, is that they consider that the survey findings detailed within the noise report are insufficient and don't provide an accurate snapshot of the site's background noise levels. Just a brief response to that. This bit of an excerpt taken out of the report which deals with this matter. The noise impact assessment details the findings of a 5-day, 24-hour monitoring exercise. The Environmental Protection Officer has reviewed the assessment and has confirmed that the methodology and findings are acceptable and accurate, and that there's no concerns of the proposal with regards to noise impacts subject to implementation of conditions. There are also a couple of consultee responses which have been received from the Environmental Protection Officer as well as Kent Police, but these are just reaffirming their previous comments, so they're not adding anything new. Okay, on to the presentation. So as mentioned, this application relates to the McNade petrol station that is operated by Shell and situated on the northern side of Canterbury Road, Faversham. As you can see from the slide here, the site outlined in red, with Canterbury Road to the south, going across the image from left to right, the Gunpowder Mill Public House to the south, as well as McNade Manor, which is a Grade 2 listed building, which is, you can see my cursor just kind of like to the southwest there. There's also a number of residential properties that wrap around the northern, eastern and western sides of the site, which are located within Laxton Way, Bramley Avenue and Blenheim Avenue respectively. This slide shows the current layout of the site with the main shop there just to the right hand side of the red outline, the canopy covering that comes out to the left of that, and the wider forecourt, which is kind of demarked by a boundary wall to the rear. This is the proposed layout. So as you can see, proposal is to enlarge the existing forecourt to provide 10 new electric vehicle charging bays served by 6 charging stations and accompanying control panel and substation, as well as a 2.2 metre high acoustic fence that runs around the charging bays, or the hard standing, and also new landscaping. The slide shows that the proposed layout with the new EV charging base situated on the extended hard standing, and as you see, that will extend over a current area of soft landscaping. This plan here shows the proposal in the context of a proposed landscaping plan. The scheme would result in the removal of 3 category C trees from the rear part of the site, but as you can see, this loss will be mitigated with the planting of a number of trees around its boundaries. Going on to some elevations, the top two elevations kind of show the Canterbury Road kind of frontage of the site, with the top one being existing and the bottom one being proposed. As you can see, that the kind of continuous line going along the top image demarks a 2 metre high boundary wall that is there in place at the minute. That will be replaced by a 2.2 metre high fence, but that will be set further back into the site. The bottom two show the views of the site looking from the west. The top two there is looking from the northern direction back at the site, and then the bottom two is looking at the site from behind the existing service station shop. And here are some images just to show the what the control panel, substation and charging units would look like. Going on to some site photos, to the left there is image looking at the service station from Canterbury Road, and then to the right is a bit further into the site that shows some of the houses along Blenheim Avenue. And then to the left there is looking towards Bramley Avenue, which houses to the right of the site, and then the right image is that landscaped area that is at the rear of the site behind that boundary wall. Then a couple more images there that just show it in its current condition. And then finally, because there's been a few comments raised by neighbours relating to the fact that there are some existing charging bays that have been constructed opposite the site, and therefore there's considered that this scheme isn't needed. Just for a point of reference, that left-hand image, you can see a row of Tesla charging bays that are directly opposite. And the right-hand image there is the McNaid Manor, which is the Grade 2 listed building. That shows the how it looks from the road. Amendments have been made to the scheme to take away some canopies over the charging bays, and following those removals, it's considered that the scheme would have a neutral impact on the listed building. Overall, it's therefore considered that, mindful of my comments that I previously made in relation to noise in the update, that there's the application is acceptable and recommended for approval.
Thank you very much. So on to public speakers. First, I'd like to invite Town Councillor Trevor Martin from Faversham Town Council.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Town Council has been approached by a number of residents. They're particularly concerned with the noise and light pollution. The area that these extend into is an area which hasn't been regularly used because of the brick wall, and therefore it is affecting them, and they are very concerned about those matters. I note the officers' update on that, but we are concerned that that will happen, and also that tends to be a wildlife corridor, and therefore we are concerned that there's a loss of biodiversity is likely within the site. Other than that, I will allow our initial consultee comments to stand, and I just ask that those areas be addressed further before this application is approved. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Anthony Hook, an objector.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm County Councillor for Faversham, and like Trevor, I want to reflect the community's concerns to you tonight, councillors, really focusing on three things: noise, light and litter. As you saw in the bird's eye photo from the officer, this is right in the heart of a residential area. It's sited right next to backing onto family homes, and the proposal will basically double the size of this petrol station, losing what's currently there, a green buffer between the petrol station and the houses. It's a considerable expansion of the existing site. At the moment, it's a small local petrol station used primarily by residents close by, or by people passing through for work or visiting. And it seems to us they want to put in something much larger that you might find on a dual carriageway with fields around it. There'll be many more users, greater traffic in an already congested area, if you know it, more traffic coming off Brindley Corner potentially to find the EV chargers, more traffic on Canterbury Road and surrounding streets. The noise is a real concern to the residents, noise of voices using the cars. At the moment, the cars at the petrol pumps are quite a distance from the houses. They're about 20 metres away. They will be practically backing onto the fences of the nearest houses in Blenheim Avenue and Laxton Way. There'll also be the sound of the car doors, reversing warnings of vans and engine runnings and so on. You all know what a car door sounds like, how loud it is, but imagine that again and again and again and again all day long at the moment, and night long. At the moment it's 20 metres away. Now it will be right next to your garden fence. Imagine trying to sit in your garden on a summer's day, trying to enjoy yourself, perhaps your children playing, reading a book, and there you've got that going on next to you. A considerable loss of privacy, I would suggest, for people. And also at the moment, the petrol station is limited, so it closes at 10 p.m. It's unclear to me and the residents any proposal on time limit the application. If you don't refuse it, I would ask you to consider putting in a condition about the opening times. Also to bear in mind, this is only a mile away from the air quality monitoring area Ospringe, which is way over the legally allowable levels of pollution. Swale Council has a duty to get the pollution in the AQMA down. This will only make it worse, because by definition, people will come through Ospringe to go and try and find the electric chargers. We've got other electric chargers. There's some over the road, as the officer said, at the Macknade Farm Shop, but Swale Council has some less than a mile away in the town centre. The supermarkets do, Tesco does, and there are some others in the town as well. The objections are strong. 16 letters at the first stage, then 13, then 8, and then the town council as well. So please refuse it, or if not, reduce the size of it, perhaps take out 3
Thank you very
6
much.
chargers.
Your time is up.
Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, next up, I'd like to invite the agent, Jackie Ford, who is attending remotely.
Hello, thanks very much for having me. My name is Jackie Ford. I'm the planning consultant for this application, and I act on behalf of Shell UK Oil Products Limited countrywide. I'm very sorry I'm not there physically. Had parents' evening, I'm afraid, but I have been to site this week, so I'm very familiar with the site and surroundings. We support the content and conclusion of the officer's report, and it addresses the issues very relevant to this proposal in a very succinct manner, and drawing on the expertise of their consultees, particularly highways, environmental protection, the biodiversity officer, tree officer, heritage, and others, as well as the officer's professional opinion. And the proposal seeks to extend the operational site to the rear, into the rear, where there is an old LPG tank, to provide 10 rapid, accessible to all chargers, with the remainder of the site landscaped, as you could see on the plans the officer showed you, with the boundary fence at 2.2 metres. The site will become what we call a true dual fuel site. So it's envisaged that those people that currently buy fuel on the site will transition to getting their cars recharged. So it's just creating that dual fuel opportunity, which is in line with what the government's supporting. I'm very aware that you have declared as a council a climate and ecology emergency back in June 2019. And this was about setting goals to reduce carbon emissions and become carbon neutral as a local authority and as a wider area. As part of that, there was an electric vehicle strategy, and that promotes and supports the switch from diesel and petrol cars to electric cars. And the key to that switch is the provision of facilities like this, which has the benefit of reducing carbon emissions. The application does predate BNG, but we did a lot of work with the local authority in preparing a preliminary ecology report and also incorporating quite significant landscaping into the site. And this has the support of your biodiversity and tree officers. And I think we're providing a really good compensation here, probably beyond that for the 10% uplift, even though we're not required to do that. The concerns about amenity are appreciated, and as a result of those concerns, the application is supported by a noise report and a lighting report which looks at lighting displays, and that's been assessed by your officers and your environmental officers, and they're accepting those findings, which is really important. I've also confirmed that the hours of the EV chargers will be as the existing petrol station, so it's 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. We also addressed during the course of the application, working with your officers, concerns about the listed building impact, and the officers covered that. I think, in conclusion, from my perspective, the proposal is in accordance with the development plan and the aspirations at national level to improve carbon dioxide emissions and the transition to electric vehicles. So on the basis of this comments, we would support the officer's conclusions and that of his experts. Thank you for hearing me.
Thank you very much. I'd now like to move the officer's recommendation. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Thompson. I now open the debate. Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Chair. Slap bang in Watling Ward, as is the later Faversham application today, so I expect to be slightly busy. I am in two real conflicting minds on this one. I too have had contact from residents in the immediate vicinity who are vehemently opposed to the expansion. I mean, it is worth noting the planning history that we have refused in the past. Okay, it's 30 years in the past now. We refused vacuum and jet wash facilities, which was then allowed appeal. So there is precedence here, even though it is long ago precedence. I'll read very briefly an email that I had in response to from Southern Housing to a question that I posed at this week's Housing and Health meeting. I asked, given that the mobility scheme now only issues EVs to people unless they can give a real valid reason why they can't, so that's the Motability scheme, what are their plans to allow EV parking in communal areas for people that don't have access to a driveway? The answer can be summarised very simply as, if it's a new development, fine. On existing developments, we're not going to be installing EV charge points unless you can do it yourself. And we recommend that you use ZapMap to find somewhere to charge your new Motability car. That plays on my mind quite heavily because we need to ensure that those who are receiving the higher entitlement for mobility of PIP and the like actually have the ability to charge their vehicles, and if they can't do it at home, that they can do it somewhere where they can do it at speed, and that's what this does offer. On the other hand, there is a potential, well, there will be a negative impact on those residents that are immediately adjacent to. We do have to increase the amount of EV charge points available, and particularly of rapid chargers. Certainly, if you take my day job position, part of the feedback that came back on a colleague travel survey about EVs was, it's great until I get north of the Midlands. And then if I'm visiting my family in Hull, I cannot find a charge point for love nor money. I have to get back on the motorway and head down to charge the car. We don't want that problem occurring here either, where people are having to travel around. And I do understand that there has been contact from residents as well with other ward councillors about the town centre EV chargers always being occupied when they get there, and because they're disabled they can't get round to use them when the other EV bays are in use. this again solves that problem. So it really is on a knife edge for me. I think it's where we balance. Is that balance in getting the technology that we need to move forward with this, in terms of the move to EVs, or is it with that residential amenity? I'll listen to the debate, but I still don't know which way I'm voting.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson.
Yeah, just a couple of things I'd like to know. I heard that canopies were removed. Is that something that could be brought back? Because for me, for the neighbours, light diffusion and also PV placement would mean that they'd get a lot less noise with canopies than if they did have canopies. So I just wondered, is it something that was definitely a no? That was the first one. And just on the other one is, what are the charge speeds of the rapid chargers? Are they, what sort of size are they? Thanks.
With regards to the charge speeds, I'm not too sure. I can't answer that question just yet. The canopies, I believe they were only kind of rooftop canopies, so whether they would kind of prevent any more kind of like acoustic alleviation from the properties behind them, I'm not too sure that they would. They were removed upon the request of the conservation officer because they would have been a lot more visible within the context of McNaid Manor. But notwithstanding that, the reports, the noise assessment that's been received has concluded that even in the event of all of the units being operated to their maximum capacity at the same time, it's anticipated that the noise level would be a maximum of around 42 decibels, and the average background noise level at the moment is 44 decibels. So it's the conclusions from the report, which have been agreed with by the Environmental Protection Officer, kind of indicates that they wouldn't produce noise that would be any louder than the current noise levels at the site.
Councillor Thompson.
Yeah, the canopy scenario is that having fitted things like that, it will remove a lot of the sound and the light issue to others. But if that's not possible, for me speaking, personally, it's great. Talking before about the fact that Tesla are putting a load at McNaid, this gives us competition, which hopefully will reduce pricing, because at the moment pricing's astronomical for movement of electric vehicles. So we need that to be down at 40, 50 pence, not 80. So this could go some way, bearing in mind they're right next door to each other. And for regards to the previous comment about pollution, there obviously is an issue in Ospringe, but they're electric cars, so therefore there would be no pollution. Hours, I would be concerned about hours, so it's good that they're keeping the hours within 6 to 10, because I feel that could have definitely an effect on the locals. But if the car wash has gone and the hoovering's now not there, does anyone know whether that is or isn't the case? I didn't know whether. They never did. Oh, that's good. That's good. So for me, yeah, the only issues would be, as others have picked up, is just people themselves, really. Yeah, it's tricky, but yeah, it does give a really good opportunity. I've had to send many of my customers quite long distances because there's no rapid charging of a sensible cost. The ones on the Thanet Way at 81 pence kilowatt hour, so they don't get used. They're just not affordable. The fact that it's Shell and the fact that it's Tesla is not a good thing, but you know, we get what we get. So for me, it sort of leans towards being positive, for sure. That's about it, really. I would love to know what speeds they're at, though, because ideally they want to be fitted at 350s, but I'd quite like to know whether the substation's set at a high enough capacity for that.
I think at the indicated capacity that they have, I believe it would be around 15 to 30 minutes charging time.
Councillor Winkless.
Thank you, Chair. can the officer put up the photograph of where exactly the proposed extension is? When you put the foot, basically there was some barren land, ground, that's it. Is that exactly where this is proposed to be extended, with that derelict, overgrown, whatever?
That's correct. So the rear part of the extended hard standing would lie kind of just to the rear of that kind of palisade fence. So it would incorporate that area of hard standing there at the moment, and it would kind of wrap, kind of coming back towards you. It would be just to the left of that footpath on that left-hand image there.
And the Chair, the second point is, if we're minded to pass this tonight, the light pollution or possible light pollution is a bit of a concern to me. Would there, yet again, could a condition be put on, basically some shielding, so the light wouldn't sort of pan out across towards the nearby properties?
Well, through the application process, the applicant has submitted a light report as well as an amended light report, which provides these kind of mapping areas that show how far the glare will go, if you like. They've amended the scheme so that all of the lights would be fitted with downlighters to ensure that the kind of spread would be as restricted as possible. And from the images and the maps that are in the report, they don't extend as far as the boundaries with the residential properties. That's all been reviewed by the Environmental Protection Officer, and he's perfectly happy with that.
And a sufficient distance then, in your view, or the report back? I think with the no light pollution would affect the neighbouring properties. Yeah.
I think a combination between the distance and the what they're going to use to kind of obscure the orientation of the lights and how to obscure the glare would be sufficient.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Perkin.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I just wanted to challenge an assumption that electric vehicles don't produce any pollution, because they do. PM 2.5 emissions are not reduced by electric vehicles. They produce the same amount of PM 2.5 emissions than petrol and diesel do. There's also the added issue of the fact that even additional electric vehicles on the road create more idling and slow traffic that are diesel and petrol cars. So I just wanted to challenge that statement. Thank you.
Okay, next up I have Councillor Booth.
Thank you, Chairman. Have you got, has the officer got a plan photograph rather than the drawing? Do you have a plan photograph? So can you kind of Google map it for us? Please. Okay, so on that map, can you identify to us the area that is going to be utilised? I take it it's that top quarter that's green, is it?
That's correct, yeah. Yeah, part of that area there.
Okay. I'm not going to declare my interest in electric vehicles, Chairman. However, having heard and read some of the documentation that we've got, what I do take exception to are those local residents, and should this go ahead, the impact that these charging points could have. Let's bear in mind, let's say, how many are we talking here? 10? Is it 10?
Yeah, 10 bays served by 6 units.
Okay, so ideal scenario, the garage is full up, all the pumps are full up, and everybody's getting their sandwiches, and there's 10 electric vehicles all parked up. That's 10 potential families of youngsters and adults that need to stretch their legs and walk about. So you could be talking 40 people, not confined to their cars, but seeking a little bit of fresh air. It's a summer's day. You're in your garden, you're enjoying a barbecue or whatever, or a nice evening relaxing in the garden. And you've got potentially that noise coming across even closer to the boundary wall than it is at the moment. So my point would be the quality of life that those residents have become accustomed to over a period of time would, without doubt, be damaged. Like probably everybody here, I've filled up at numerous petrol stations around the country. And generally, people that are getting their cars electrically charged are either in the restaurant, where it's a motorway service station, or they're just milling around in the car park area. That's what they do, especially if you've got children. So, that in mind, I think it is the detriment to the quality of life that people have been accustomed to in that area. That wasn't me. I am not going to vote in favour of the application. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak? No? No. Councillor Marchington.
I was involved in many years ago was in putting in sound barriers for herbies along the motorways and bits and pieces. There's probably a way of improving the quality of it. The worst sound barrier you can have is a flat plate, because its sound is a wave band. It will come straight back at you. Perforated or wave patterns break it up a little bit. I do know that the best sound barrier is trees. A bank of trees is better than anything else we can produce. But timber work is a good way of making barriers. So there must be a way of doing a more enclosed sound barrier system round the chargers. Is that a possibility?
Well, if I just get the landscaping plan up here, so you can see, if you can see my cursor, the acoustic fence runs. Can you see it just about? So the acoustic fence runs. Where are we? Immediately, it's indicated by this kind of pink line. So it runs around these charger bays, and then around the edge of the site there. In front of that would be a line of trees that are proposed to be planted as part of the new landscaping scheme. And that continues around the site, although obviously there's not so many around this portion, but they are kind of more substantial species.
Because this is obviously going to be a problem that's going to reoccur all over the country, isn't it? You know, and it needs some more thought given to it nationally. That's it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Right, we now move to the vote. All those in favour of the officer's recommendation to approve, please show. Against? Okay. Abstentions? Okay, so that is carried. 10 votes for, 3 against, 1 abstention. And the decision was that we delegate the planning permission approval to the head of planning, subject to appropriate safeguarding conditions, and to negotiate the precise wording and conditions, including adding or amending such conditions as may be necessary and appropriate. I think we might have a long agenda item coming up next, so I'm going to suggest we'll take a 5-minute break. I'll see you back in 5 minutes. So we're on item 2.3, application number 24/501 929/REM, Site A, land at Preston Fields, Salters Lane. I'd like to invite the planning officer to provide a summary, update and presentation.
Thank you, Chair. Only update is since the application, the agenda was published, Faversham Community Land Trust have submitted a letter which now has been circulated to councillors, which reiterates comments made in earlier representations and requests a refusal of the application. In summary, the submission sets out a preference for an affordable housing mix to be brought forward that reflects the neighbourhood plan policy FAV3 to a greater degree. They consider that an alternative application be submitted to provide a different housing mix. Presentation? Thank you, Chair. The application relates to land at Preston Fields to the south of Canterbury Road at Faversham. For background, in February 23, outline planning permission was granted for the erection of up to 250 dwellings. In 2023, later in 2023, a further 70 dwellings were approved on land primarily to the south of this site. In October 23, a reserved matters application was approved for the erection of 231 dwellings on this site, 81 of which should be affordable. This application seeks to amend the approved reserved matters in ways that I'll set out. Fundamentally, the majority of the changes to the development are minor. There are some elements of the changes that I won't go into because they are particularly small. At the northern part of the site, there were minor changes to the design and positioning of the dwellings to the west, which I've shown on the approved plans, where the dwellings have been moved away from the trees, with other minor alterations to the layout to create a space to do so that is considered benefits. It gives more space for the trees. To the east, northeast corner of the site, there's alterations to where the pumping station is, very minor, just to facilitate that element of the development. Through the spine of the site, changes to the open space area, and there's also changes to the SUDS features through changing ground levels. And at the northwest corner of the site, there's again minor changes to the layout, mostly in terms of car parking and materials. At the south part of the site, again, the central spine is being altered, and there's really minor alterations to the two SUDS features that are shown loosely there. The greatest change that's attracted the attention of interested parties, and is the reason for the application being before the committee tonight, is the change to the affordable housing tenure mix that is proposed under the terms of the application. It also involves 12 four-bedroom dwellings being changed to three-bedroom dwellings. The approved plan was for 81 secured affordable housing units to have a tenure mix of 73 affordable rent and 8 shared ownership units, which reflects the 90-10 split that is set out in the preamble to the local plan policy, DM8. The application, after it was approved to that effect, the applicant has sought bids for the affordable housing from 11 registered providers. None were willing to proceed to be involved with the development as it had been approved. Those that had shown interested were only interested on the basis of an alternative housing mix. Consequently, given the prospect of it not being possible to deliver the affordable housing, the applicant is seeking to amend the proposals to provide 41 affordable rented units and 40 shared ownership units. So the grand total is the same, and it's the same units. One of the concerns raised by the Town Council is that about the spread and where they're located at the site, but fundamentally they're the same units, just 12 of them are being altered from 4-bed to 3-bed, which better reflects the requirements of the neighbourhood plan. That's a summary of everything I've said. Again, the grand total of affordable housing units is the same, it's the mix that's changing. Whilst being a deviation from the approved mix and not according with the preferred mix that is set out within the neighbourhood plan or the local plan, this has been reviewed by the council's officers, who have advised that the amended mix should be found acceptable. It's noted that the Faversham Community Land Trust and the Town Council do not agree with this approach and consider that an alternative proposal should be brought forward that better reflects the needs of the area, which is identified in the neighbourhood plan, and the content of the recent. However, Deliverability can be a material consideration, and in this case it is considered that any conflict arising from the development plan conflict is outweighed by the benefits of affordable housing being delivered. Therefore, it's recommended for approval. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. First up, we have to speak Town Councillor Trevor Martin from Faversham Town Council.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, councillors. Your officer has indicated our prime concern that given that you made the Faversham neighbourhood plan only in October, this does not meet plan policy. FAV 5, and also one of the things we know is that there were only 11 registered providers invited to bid, and when we looked at the list there were at least a further 6 social registered providers operating in the Faversham area. So the fact that this has been put forward for approval is something that we feel is incorrect, in that the registered providers have not all been approached and don't seem to have been considered. Any revisions to the type and mix of homes should meet the policy requirements set out in FAB 3, residential mix and standards, and we also ask that, as far as that is concerned, the council goes back to the developer and asks them to have a look at complying with that and using the housing needs assessment June 2022 to inform that final mix. Much as I think the Faversham Community Land Trust may also be saying to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up we have the agent, Joe Hanslip, online.
Thank you, Chairman. Members, can you hear me all?
Loud and clear.
Yep, brilliant. Many thanks. I'm grateful for the opportunity to address you all this evening. My clients, Redrow Homes, have been working with your officers on this site at Preston Fields for several years now. As officers have mentioned, outline planning permission was secured in 2023, February, for both the northern and southern parcels known as Site A and Site B. Reserve Matters approval was secured for the northern parcel, Site A, in October 2023, after considerable engagement with officers. As you may well be aware, nationally there's been considerable emphasis on the need for an increase in the delivery of housing, especially affordable housing. However, increased financial burdens on affordable housing providers due to funding constraints, refurbishment costs, rent caps and limited grant funding has meant that the delivery of affordable housing in many areas has been negatively affected. This is an issue that's been reported on across the country. My clients, Swell Council and this site have not been immune to these challenges. So given these wider pressures, my clients have experienced considerable challenges in securing a registered provider who is able to deliver the affordable housing on this site, Site A. Thankfully, West Kent have indicated that they can deliver the affordable housing units, but given the pressures they are under, changes are needed to the tenure and mix for affordable homes in order for them to be truly deliverable. Consequently, the details of this Section 73 application have been discussed at length and agreed with Swell's Accommodation and Resettlement Manager, as well as obviously with planning officers. We appreciate that the mix is divergent from the Faversham neighbourhood plan aspirations. However, given the practical realities of securing the delivery of affordable housing, the revised mix in this Section 73 application is essential. It will achieve what I imagine we're all agreed upon, which is the delivery of much needed affordable homes. Both Redrow and West Kent are focused on ensuring that these much needed homes are delivered, and as such 9 homes are programmed for occupation in July 2025. To achieve this objective, we urge members to vote in support of their officer's recommendation and grant planning permission. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I now move the officer's recommendation. Do I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Brown. I open the debate. Councillor Parkin.
Thank you. So, having worked on for the last 5 to 6 years on producing the Faversham neighbourhood plan, I find it difficult to hear that the affordable mix is described as aspirational. The facts of the matter are that the neighbourhood plan is not an aspiration. It is the minimum expected expectations within the neighbourhood plan area. It is a more in-date planning policy document than the local plan. So actually FAV3 would take more legal weight over DM8. And I would really implore the committee to show the residents of Faversham that they have put together a compliant and made neighbourhood plan that sets out our reasonable expectations for affordable delivery within the Faversham neighbourhood plan area, and that this development does not comply with those expectations. So they're not aspirations, they're expectations, and it doesn't comply with it. So I would recommend that we don't accept this application and that it is sent back so that the developer can come back with a compliant development that does meet the expectations of the made neighbourhood plan for Faversham. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Chair. I empathise and I do understand fully the pressures that there are within the social housing sector at the moment in terms of trying to deliver. We heard from Southern Housing at the Housing and Health Committee earlier this week of the millions and billions that they are having to spend on existing stock, which therefore means they have no money left to do anything that's actually useful. Heaven forbid. That being said, my colleague did point out the importance of the Faversham neighbourhood plan, which is actually slightly less daunting for the potential housing partner than the current policy DMA, in that it only requires 66% of the properties to be affordable rent, not 90%. And therefore 34% affordable ownership, be that shared ownership or first homes or any other random new government thinking that they come up with that takes more away from our lovely actual social rent properties. It's worth noting that they're talking about affordable rent here as well, not social rent, which again, within the Faversham area is not affordable because it is below, it will be charged at a rent that is higher than the local housing allowance rate. Again, I understand that social housing providers cannot provide social rent properties without grant funding, and that is disappointing. The fact that only 11 RPs have been contacted and there are a further 6 that could have been contacted is disappointing. I can't agree to it as a 50-50. If they'd come in, and I'm aware that they originally pushed for, was it 70% to be shared ownership, which was a complete joke. If they can come back and say why 5 properties is the difference, and given that there is a suggestion that perhaps changing some of those 4 beds to small maisonette style flats of 1 or 2 bedrooms, which could improve that viability, then maybe it can be looked at. But I think it's just, they said what they had to do to get through the reserve matters last time. They said what they had to do to get the outline, and now they seem to want to go back on that. Everything else within here, yeah, perfectly fine actually. More space for trees, great. I am a bit concerned around some of those changes to the spine road because it does look as though they don't link as well as they used to. But it's something that's livable with. Let's say this is just, it feels like a bit of a kick in the teeth, given that I know this committee was keen to get the volume of affordable rented properties that we actually approved.
Thank you. Councillor Winkles.
Thank you, Chair. I've listened to the 2 previous speakers and I do totally sympathise with what they're saying. I do have concerns that they basically not supplying the proper amount of affordable housing or renting properties they should. They are still basically, if I read this correctly, 41 dwellings 51% and 40 dwellings at 49%. This is a very difficult one for me, to be honest with you. On this one, I feel as if we was to turn this down tonight, we would possibly lose, but I'm going to go on to say there's a possibility we could defer this to see if there are more, if I understand correct from the two Faversham members, that there are more suppliers or companies that may come in, if I've heard correct. So I would recommend or propose a deferral to see if we can get as the two previous members said, to see if we can get this affordable rented accommodation increased. So that's a proposal on the floor by me, if I've got a second.
Councillor Martin has indicated.
I'm more than happy to second that.
Do you wish to flesh out this at all? Is there anything else we want?
I think the deferral is purely on the basis that contact is made with all registered providers who operate within Faversham and the east of the borough to ensure that there really is no interest, and to see whether there is any desire or whether it is possible to move the proposal that came through in that letter from the Faversham Community Land Trust, or if we can at least get to the 66-34 split. It might not be possible, but there is no harm in pushing. And we might get the pushback and it comes back to this committee with a report that says, we've contacted everyone and no one's interested. But at least then we know everyone's been contacted.
Councillor Booth.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, talking to that deferral, can we have the officers steer on the timeline if we are to defer and the potential implications of such a deferral, please?
Yep.
Thank you, Chair. Likely timeline. Obviously, officers would have to be in contact with developer, applicant. They'd need to, if used to meet the requirements that you've set out, they'd need time to go away to talk to a few, or at least give us justification as to why those RPs are clearly not in the market, and it's a waste of everyone's time. There is an inherent risk to that an appeal for non-determination could be submitted. Realistically, we've got a committee on 3rd of April, and the next one after that is 22nd of May. I think you're looking at it coming to May rather than April. It shouldn't take too much longer than that. If I could jump in and also say, I mean, the mix that we've got is, as Councillor Martin said, a reflection of a negotiation that has occurred between officers and the developer. We don't shy away in response to other councillors. Sorry, I forgot your name. We don't shy away from the fact that it's not neighbourhood plan compliant. However, deliverability can be a material consideration. What you've got before you is a firm commitment to deliver 81 affordable units, which in a context where we're under a lot of pressure to deliver affordable housing, it's regularly a matter that's given a lot of weight in appeal decisions. We've got an affordable housing emergency ongoing. The government's permission on the delivery of affordable housing and through the NPPF is very, very clear. I think this is what's before us is a very good compromise. Our affordable housing officers, colleagues, of that exactly same view. They've reviewed the efforts that have been made by the applicant to seek other RPs at the earlier agreed mixes, and they fully agree with the mix that's now put in before us. We very strongly support the mix, and That's why I recommended approval. Thank you, Chair.
Can I come in here, Chair?
Yes, please do. This is our legal officer.
Can I come in? Hello?
Yeah, we're going to go to Councillor Booth and then we're going to bring you in. One moment.
Okay.
Thank you, Chairman, and yeah, thank you very much. I'm pleased the officer mentioned the words non-determination. This council does have a dark history on non-determination, and I would stress that this application, in my opinion, needs to be decided tonight. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. I'm going to bring the legal officer in now.
Yeah, I was advised the committee chair that you can defer for further information so that your determination is with all the facts before you, but you can't defer to get the applicant to do something to improve his application as far as you're concerned. So you wouldn't have the power to defer on the basis that other associations should be approached, and that should be an exhaustive exercise. You can't do that. So you must find other reasons, such as further information. You can't compel the applicant to go off and do further due diligence.
Thank you. Councillor Perkin.
Thank you. I wanted to thank Mr. Harrison for his view on the work that's been done to come to a compromise, and I appreciate that there has been work that has been done to come to a compromise. And I'm not trying to be glib by saying that it doesn't comply with FAV3. I think that what concerns me is that if we are going to start not putting the policies within the neighbourhood plan as the minimum expectations for the affordable splits and tenure splits when development comes forward within the Faversham neighbourhood plan area, then that sets a worrying tone for me, in that actually are we going to receive any of the affordable housing that we desperately need, and the mix that we desperately need within Faversham, and the mix that has been outlined within the neighbourhood plan and also within the subsidiary documents like the neighbourhood plan needs assessment. I think that we have to be really strong that the Faversham neighbourhood plan is a made plan. It's a more recent plan than the local plan, and so it does hold legal weight in terms of those discussions, and this application as it stands is not compliant with those policies, and those policies are in planning terms important, and I think that saying that there's been a compromise and that we're happy with it when it doesn't comply with the minimum expectations that the neighbourhood plan outlines really concerns me for the future of development within the neighbourhood plan area. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kavanagh, please.
Thank you, Chair. I just wonder, through the Chair, is there a huge demand for 4-bedroom shared ownership properties? When I first bought my first house, it was a 12-foot wide 2-bedroom house, and even then I was really stretched to afford it. They seem huge. I thought most people start small, and then if and when they can afford to buy something bigger. And I'm very loath, I'm really passionate about socially rented housing. And is this the beginning of the thin end of the wedge where things are going to be reduced down and down? You know, I heard Southern Housing's presentation on Tuesday at Housing and Health, how difficult it is to put your hand up and agree to take on as a registered provider for housing, but it's really difficult. Do we just roll over and give in? Thank you.
Chance to come in?
Thank you, Chair. I'm not in a position to comment in detail as to what the demand is for affordable housing. That'd be a question for our affordable housing officers not available tonight. I can, however, say that giving weight to Fab 3 of the neighbourhood plan, the first point in Section 1 states that residential schemes should include a mix of accommodation to meet local housing need. Based on the latest available evidence, this should include accommodation suitable for families, in brackets 3 bedrooms, as a predominant part of the mix. So in this case, that is a benefit from this scheme in our eyes, is that 12 4-bed units are becoming 3-bed units, which better aligns with that aspect of the neighbourhood plan. Thank you, Chair.
Did you want to come back? Okay, Councillor Thompson.
I'd just like to reiterate the points that Councillor Perkins said, that once someone's made, or a group have made, the effort to come up with a local plan, and quite often we hear so many other people saying, why haven't we got a plan? Why haven't we got a plan? And once you've made one and made that decision, I feel it shouldn't be undermined, and we should make all efforts. If it means a redesign from the developer to do that, then so be it. But we're desperately short of social housing, so we mustn't compromise on those areas. That's just my point, really. And it highlights again, should we as a local authority be a provider? That's something in my mind anyway.
Anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Martin.
Only that based upon the legal officer's advice there, obviously we can't say that they've got to go and speak to these other providers, but we can ask for the information to be presented to us as to why they didn't. And I suggest that that's now, if Councillor Winkless is in agreement, that's what we ask for. We ask them, we defer and ask for that additional information so that we can make a fully informed decision.
I totally in agreement with what Councillor Martin has just said. Thank you.
Okay, there's no further discussion on the deferral. Then we will vote on the deferral. All those in favour of the deferral, please show. Against? Abstentions? So that item is deferred. Vote was 11-3, and we'll move on to the next item then.
Chairman, if I may, Chairman, can we have the exact wording for the deferral? Because at the moment it sounds like why the applicant hasn't gone out to more than the housing authorities he's been out to. If that's the question, I'm slightly embarrassed by it.
Deferral for additional information regarding the which associations were contacted, which ones were not, and any justification for those that were not contacted, given that there are essentially a half as many again that have not been contacted.
Okay, we voted on that, so we'll move on to the next item. Item 2.4, application number 24/503 858/full, and this is Oak Tree Cottage, South Street, Bolton under Blean. I'd like to ask the officer to provide summary, update and presentation.
Thank you very much, Chair. Evening, everybody. There is a small update for this one, and it is a small one. I was out on site earlier in the week getting some up-to-date photos, and I've noticed that some of the roof lights have been put in, so it's slightly more retrospective than we thought. But on the basis that the roof lights don't need planning permission, as set out in the report, there's no real implications associated with that. So in terms of the proposal, so effectively it's for a replacement rear extension and some additions to the fenestration on the property. As set out in the report, the only things that actually need planning permission here are the rear extension and one of the side windows due to PD rights that exist. But I'll take you through the proposal in full now. So Oak Tree Cottage is the property, situated on South Street in Bolton. The red line indicates the application site, and the blue line indicates land also in the applicant's ownership. You can, if you can see that, you can hopefully see that there's no surrounding residential properties, the closest being around 115 metres away. So existing floor plans, ground floor plan. The dotted outline there at the back was what was the rear extension, which has now been demolished. It's included in the description, so that's Part of the reason for the retrospective nature of the application is that's not there anymore. That's just a first floor plan as was existing. Don't need to dwell on that. Existing elevations to the left there is the front. That largely remains unchanged. I'll show you the changes in a sec, but it's just related to some fenestration on that front elevation. And on the rear is the dotted outline of what was the projection there, which has now been demolished. In terms of what's being proposed, so the rear extension here at the back, it extends slightly wider than what's been removed, so it extends up to the existing external side wall of the property on this side, and then up to the part where the extension is, where the property is staggered. This bit on the left-hand side is a previous addition to the property. And here's the the first floor view of that. So you just get the roof there with a couple of roof lights. So in terms of the rear elevation, this is where most of the changes are taking place. So there's a pitch roof single-storey extension on the back. There's some roof lights, some of which I said have gone in already, but they don't need permission, so no real further comment on that. Some changes to the windows and some additional windows going in. And then the front is the only real changes is effectively around the porch, where there's some fenestration changes to the door and a additional window being put in, which is shown. So the porch here is shown on the right hand side. The left hand side of the left hand drawing and the right hand side of the right hand drawing, and then the opposite way around for the rear extension, which you can see there. In terms of, that's a block plan, that's probably too small to see, but it's just a zoomed out version of what we've been looking at. So in terms of photographs, front of the property, fronting onto South Street. Rear of the property, as you can see, there's some remnants of what was the previous extension. And side of the property there where a couple of windows are also going in. This is just a couple of photos showing from the other side along South Street, and it's just part of what's referenced in the report, whereby there's a lot of planting going already existing along there, and you don't really get a view of the rear of the property and the impact that, and therefore it doesn't really have an impact in officers' view on the surrounding countryside or the landscapes. That is the end of the presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll now move on to speakers. So first up we have Parish Councillor Mokes from Bolton under Blean Parish Council, attending remotely.
Yeah, hi. Firstly, we take issue with the officer's claim that the extension would have little impact upon the wider countryside or the local landscape. Oak Tree Cottage backs onto open fields and is within sight of a number of other properties. It can also be seen from the public footpath. It should be noted that the applicants have already managed to spoil the rural setting, replacing a 40-metre stretch of roadside hedge with a 2-metre tall close-board fence. I don't think highways would approve of that. They have also completely covered the western plot of the three in hard standing. To limit development in the countryside, local policy DM11 states that planning permission will only be granted in cases proposing modest extensions, taking into account any previous additions undertaken of an appropriate scale, mass and appearance. The officer admits that, quote, the extension cumulatively likely exceeds the 60% figure as set by the SPG, but argues that just because it states the council will not normally approve an extension which results in an increase above 60%, this does not preclude this scenario from ever occurring, unquote. In fact, the SPG says that, quote, in many cases, extensions even of this size are not acceptable. In design terms alone, the proposal is objectionable. The extension is overly dominant and wholly out of keeping with the original dwelling. Meanwhile, the fenestration, and there's lots of it, even including the front door, is a complete hodgepodge, all in different sizes. None of it matches. No detailed specification for the new windows and doors has been provided, and none is being sought. All we are told is that the windows to the rear will match those on the front elevation. However, no self-respecting joiner would manufacture sash windows like the ones shown in those drawings. The proportions are totally wrong. It is also claimed that the roof to the extension will match the existing. Handmade clay tiles could not be used on such a low-pitched roof. Something else the officer has completely failed to address is policy DM19, sustainable design. Extensions must adhere to a glazing limit equivalent to 25% of the floor area to achieve the U values necessary to meet building regs. On the evidence, this exceeds it. This in itself would make it a non-starter. According to MPPF 139, development that is not well designed should be refused. Contrary to DM16, the proposal fails to, quote, respond positively to the style and character of the building being extended, unquote, and is not of a design and appearance that is sympathetic to its location in line with DM14. If the council has its way, this former pair of 19th century cottages is going to end up being transformed into...
Thank you. Your time is more than up. Thank you. Next up, we have the agent speak, and that is Cherry Bailey, please. Please unmute your microphone.
Sorry. Thank you for the opportunity to speak on behalf of my client. I am the architect of the scheme and in support of the application. We have worked with the planning department tirelessly to come up with solutions and to meet the committee's recommendations. We've addressed the fenestration and we have looked into timber framing to suit, which will be new and fit in line and be able to be more balanced, as with the comments of the previous speaker. We've also looked at the rear extension where we had excessive light bifold doors. We've removed the bifold doors where we have now got just windows where the on the side of the rear elevations. And we have reduced the number of bifold doors for the main extension. What we are looking for is for security. It's a young family with 2 young kids and a baby, and we feel that for security and privacy that this provides a well-balanced approach for that area, for the surroundings, and as noted, most of the buildings beyond that are further away and are not seeable through from the roadside and also from the side of the building as well. We feel that the previous applications, which we noted was quite 2-story, have been refused previously on other applications. So we felt that a 1-story, low level and less dominant would have been more appropriate. So we're just looking to help with just the extra internal refurbishment, just to open plan it, to bring more light into the building, because the rear of the property didn't have much lighting, hence why we went for the bifold doors towards the rear of the property. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'd like to move the officer's recommendation. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Braun. Open debate. Okay, I close the debate then. So all those in favour of the officer recommendation, please show. Against? Abstentions? So that is 12 for 2 abstentions, so that one is approved. We move on to section 5. We'll note that it's 2 delegated decisions and they were both upheld by the planning inspectorate. Good result. Does anyone have anything on part 5s? Councillor Martin.
Given that, let's just say well done to the officers then.
That sounds good to me. And on that note, I close the meeting at 20:57. Thank you all.